Welcome to EmpowerFuse with your host, Dr. Carolyn M. Rubin. EmpowerFuse is a show of empowering messages with a focus on encouraging self-confidence, resilience, and a positive mindset. Certified life coach and six-phase meditation trainer, Dr. Carolyn Rubin, will unleash inspiration together while igniting motivation and creativity. Dr. Rubin will discuss many topics such as healthcare, leadership, life, growth, and we'll add in some laughter too. So please welcome the host of EmpowerFuse, Dr. Carolyn Rubin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to EmpowerFuse, Unleashing Inspiration Together. I am your host, Dr. Carolyn Rubin, and today we have a very special guest, a very special friend of mine, and I know he will be a very good friend of yours once this show is over, Cesar R. Espino. Cesar lives in Los Angeles. He is a best-selling international author, real estate investor, mind coach, podcaster of the show You Can Overcome Anything, and a real estate coach. His objective is to empower, motivate, and inspire others to reach their full potential. Cesar is creating opportunities for people to have a chance at life regardless of their background or their current situation. Please help me welcome to the show, Cesar R. Espino. Welcome, Cesar. It is so great to have you on the show.
Good morning. How are you, Carolyn?
I am great. And how are you doing this fine day?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Excited to be here and really be part of this conversation with you and your guests and your audience. And so I'm excited to be a guest here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. Your story, Cesar, begins in circumstances many people would have allowed to just define them. What carried you through those early years, emotionally and mentally?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, and I always tell that people that what we do now really begins from where you began as a kid. And to me, even in on my very first book, I talk about it. I think it's very very important to at least understand the background, right? And so I'll give you a little bit of a content there as to
Yeah.
why I'm doing the things that I do now, right? Again, I was born in Mexico City, and I was born to just one parent. Never met my biological father, and it was just my mom, my mom's mom, and my older brother and myself. And we were in a place, we didn't come from a very rich family. As a matter of fact, we didn't really have a whole lot. And to the extent that we were staying in this little place that we call home, by the way, but it wasn't
Oh,
really our place. It was something that we were renting, and it was no more than 250 square feet of space, really, for the four of us. No running water, no electricity, no pavement, right? And it was made out of sheet metal and plywood. Yet again, we called that home. And just like anything, I was going to school. My mom and my grandmother wanted me to go to school and really stay focused with that. And then at the time of me turning just 4 years, right? 3 months after that, I would say I probably had my first turning point, or I had that first moment that I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? My mom decided to take her leap of faith, and she decided to leave Mexico to come to the States to give us a better life, right?
mm,
Now, as a kid, though, you go through a lot of different things, and you're thinking like, "Well, wait, I have no father, really, and now my mom is leaving. What's going on? Is it me? Did I do something wrong?" Right? You start blaming yourself, or you start thinking certain things in your mind. And nevertheless, my mom decided to take her path and journey to the states. So it was just me, my older brother, and my grandmother left, and things changed for me there because as it is, we were already poor, very, very poor. I started working at an early age. I started working really at the age of 4, even before that, but more so now because I didn't have my mom there, right? And the type of work that I would do in Mexico, you've seen a lot of those movies where you see people like selling candies and doing that kind of stuff. We were doing that. We were doing whatever we could to really sell at a tianguis, or like a flea market, right? So cookies,
Okay.
candy, a bunch of taquitos, a bunch of different things, and
Great.
we were doing that. And so that by itself was a little bit of a challenge, right? Again, the great thing about my childhood, it was that my grandmother wanted me to go get an education. I never dropped out of school, but that also created, it was good, but it also created other challenges, and that was that I was not a normal kid. And what I mean by that is not that I can be labeled in any particular shape. It meant that I couldn't be a normal kid, where a normal kid would go to school, come out of school, and then go out and play with the neighborhood kids, right?
Yeah.
Do
Right.
things like I didn't have that option. I really didn't. I needed to actually go to school, do my homework, come home and eat whatever I could eat if there was food, and then I would
Right.
start working, doing stuff to help us generate money. There was times we didn't have anything to eat. I still like this, by the way, and I call this the Mexican specialty dish, which really is not. It's just the label that I gave it. But it was a tortilla with grain of salt, and that's all we had for days in and days out, because sometimes we didn't have enough food, to
Right.
eat. It got to the point where selling stuff at the flea market was not enough, and so my grandmother decided to get a sewing machine for the three of us: my older brother, my grandmother, and myself. So I know how to sew clothing. I started sewing clothing at the age of 7. As a matter of fact, I joked about this when I'm on stages or I'm talking to people. I say, "Hey, by the way, Halloween is coming, and so if you're looking for somebody to do your costume, let me know. I can probably do that for you, right?" So, um, but nevertheless, that was part of my life, and it wasn't
Yeah.
until like the age of 10. Now, my mom, during this time, obviously, she was helping. She was sending money from the states over to Mexico. She was present in spirit, I guess. And then she did try to come at least once or twice during our event. And then at the age of 10, I she finally came and said, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm taking you guys to the States." Right. And that became a whole different story, which I definitely want to share with you in terms of that too. But that was another change in my childhood.
Oh, I hope everybody is writing down your little nuggets. Cesar, they're writing down what you have shared so far. We have to take a quick commercial break, but when we get back, I absolutely want to dive into this just a little bit further. So thank you for sharing what you have shared so far. Team, please be back with us in less than 2 minutes. We'll see you soon.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back to EmpowerFuse, Unleashing Inspiration Together. Today, my special guest, Cesar R. Espino. Cesar, we actually had a comment come in during the first section from
Nice.
Simone. And she just made a comment, such grit created within you during your childhood. So I totally agree with her statement. And I want to have you give you a little bit more opportunity to finish up what you were talking to the
Yeah.
lady about.
Yeah, no, definitely. Kind of going back to her question or comment, I do believe that. I do believe that again. What I who I am now is because of who I was before. And so let me look back. My mom came back definitely at the age of 10, and she finally said, "Hey, I'm taking you guys to the States. You're coming with us." And so there was a sense of excitement, but then there was a sense of, "Am I really ready for this?" Right? And
Hmm.
so, long story short, she definitely did fulfill that promise, and we came to the States. Now, a lot of people might think that I came to the States, um, and it's my story, so I'm gonna say it legally. It's that was
Yeah.
not the case. That was another hurdle for me. At the age of 10, neither my grandmother nor my older brother, I had any uh, uh, legal way to get in here. My mom was already legal, but we weren't. So we had to literally take a plane from Mexico City to the border of Tijuana and San Diego. Then we had to cross the border in terms of utilizing coyotes or the human smugglers, whatever they call them. And it's funny because I learned something there. It took us 2 weeks to go through that. It's not an easy thing to do. And seeing a lot of things that are happening reminds me of who I was as a kid. I mean, we had to duck and go over the mountains, and then they had to carry me because I couldn't swim, and a lot of different things took place. And it
Right.
took 2 weeks for us to cross the border, but even the people that are supposed to protect you and help you and get you to the promised land, I saw things that no kid should be seeing in those 2 weeks. Um, Females getting raped, people getting, there were just so many different things, and that's a whole different story. Bottom line, we made it. We finally made it after 2 weeks. We made it to LA, Los Angeles, and then I had a moment of what I think a lot of people go through, right? One, I felt out of place. Number two, I didn't know the language. I didn't know anybody. I had no friends. I felt lonely. On top of
Yeah.
that, yeah, I was with my mom, but I didn't really know my mom, right? She was absent for 6 years of my life, and for a good reason. I get it now. I didn't understand back then. So it was a little bit of a challenge. And then I remember the person that I see as my dad, who's my stepdad. He was taking me to get a haircut, and I got into an argument with him. And I said something to him. I said, first of all, you cannot tell me what to do. You are not my father. Why don't you just send me back to Mexico? Right now, I'm glad he didn't do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Except again,
Right.
right? Except again, I learned something there that I think a lot of people are going through or go through even now. And the lesson that I've learned was that sometimes we are so comfortable being in a certain place that we are afraid to step into the uncomfortable place
Right.
to grow. For me, I was comfortable being poor. For me, I was comfortable, having to work. I was comfortable having that life, and I was so uncomfortable or felt out of place to give this new land, this new opportunity, a chance. Right? Sometimes that's the challenge. Sometimes we let the fear take away the opportunities in front of us. And
Yeah.
so I learned that. And so what I did then is I surrendered. Now I didn't surrender to give up. I surrendered to understand. I surrendered to really take my life in a different aspect and take
Hmm.
whatever is in front of me to be able to say, you know what, this is going to be my new norm. So within 2 years, I learned the language. I was a straight A student. I was, involved in all aspects in the community, in school, and I did something that many people didn't. That in that time I saw a lot of people were falling into drugs and gangs and all that stuff. I never went that path. I never did any of that. I never did any of that stuff. I was very committed to school. Last thing that I'm gonna say before I move on to out of this story is that at the age of 15, right, something happened, another turning point in my life that could have taken me down, right? And
Right.
it didn't. I was a kid at that time. Obviously, I was dating a girl in middle school, and I got her pregnant. And so now I'm a kid having a kid. Literally, I was just 5 years in this country. I got somebody pregnant, and I'm 15, and I'm about to have a kid. And so a lot of people said, "You're a failure. You're not gonna make it. You're not gonna do good." All this stuff. I utilized all of that, and I utilized having my daughter at 16 to be the ammunition and the why and the purpose of why I needed to actually become somebody. Because I told And I promised at that time, my daughter's mom, I made a promise that, you know what, I'm gonna promise you that our daughter is not gonna have to go through the things that I went through. She's not gonna have to work as a little kid. She's not gonna have to worry about not having clothes. She's not gonna have to worry about not having food. She's gonna have everything that I didn't have, all the experiences. And thank God to this day, I've been able to give my daughter every single experience that I can give that I didn't have. And my daughter's, successful. She's a very successful young lady and has never done anything negative, because at the end of the day, she followed that and I did my part. Right. And
Right.
so, again, that is the reason why I decided to have my very first book called You Can Overcome Anything, even when the world says no, because I felt like I was being knocked down so many times and I prevailed.
Yeah. And I again love your story, and there's so many things that um can relate to others. We have another comment that with from Simone. Surrender. Thank you so much for speaking on this. So many don't understand the true meaning of surrendering, and they don't. And one of the questions that I have for you, Caesar, around the book that you started, the series that you have, and I have been honored to be a co-author in several of those, and you also
Yes.
have your podcast, You Can Overcome Anything. But what mindset shifts actually helped you move from survival thinking into possibility thinking?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think that's something that throughout my adulthood years I was struggling with. And I think a lot of people also kind of may put themselves in that place, right? Because there's
Right.
so many, especially now, there's so many distractions, there's so many things happening, that sometimes we're not able to determine, am I doing the right thing, am I going down the right path, right? For me, after I went through all of that, I have a master's. I went through the route of getting an education. I am not knocking down education again. I went through that path. Except for me, in my mid 30s, I came to a realization that I said, "Hey, there's got to be something more for me than just this." Working at corporate America, had a great job, had the education, but I still felt like there was something missing. And I think part of it goes back to what I said. I went back to my morning, or my beginning, right? The beginning of
Yes.
my time, and I said, I went through all of this to just be another employee. I'm like, no, there's got to be something bigger than that, right? And so for me, the motivation came off of that. And I said, well, if there's a different path, what do I need to do to make that shift, right? And
Yeah.
again, in 2018, I decided to write. I had just left corporate America. As a matter of fact, here's another lesson that I've learned too. 2018, I said, I need to take my leap of faith, my own leap of faith. I need to leave corporate America. I was very comfortable, making over six figures. I'm like, I need to leave corporate America to do real estate investing full time. Just focus on that.
Yeah.
It took me 7 months for me to be able to turn in my notice. I remember 2018, I went to my boss, or I was going to go to my boss on January 1st, and I already
Okay.
had my resignation letter, and I couldn't fulfill that. I couldn't go through it. There was that fear of, man, this is a secure job, quote unquote, right?
Right.
I have all these benefits. I have all of this. Can I really do this? And I just got cold feet, and I didn't do it. It took me almost 7 months for me to actually go to my boss and say, you know what, I need to do this. And I should have done it, but again, it's that fear, right? We
Yeah.
it's an emotion that we go through. Again, it goes back to what I said. Sometimes we let the fear of the unknown take away the opportunity. And so I finally did it. And around that time when I left my job, I said, okay, end of 2018, I said, I need to write a book about my story, and it called You Can Overcome Anything. And something else happened, right? I talked myself out of it. Like, how many times have we talked ourselves out of doing something, right? How many
Yep.
times have you told yourself, like, no, this is not a good idea? Who cares? Like, literally, that was
Yes.
the internal conversation I was having with myself. And I said, hey, Caesar, who are you kidding? Nobody is going to want to know about your story, right? You're not even a writer. You didn't even like English. And I'm like, you don't even like to read. And so I talked myself out of it. And sometimes we do that in life, right? We talk
We
ourselves
do. Yeah.
out of doing something, right? And
Yeah.
so I talked myself out of it, and I said, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna do it, whatever. And a few months went back and by, and then I went to a, uh, a self development event. I started doing some of that to work on my mind, and something clicked at that event. And I said, you know what? Hmm, let me do this. What about if I change the way I see things and I change the framing of that? And I said, so what if nobody buys my book? So what if nobody reads it? What about if I do it for me, like for myself?
There you
What about if I
go.
do it for my daughter so she has something to remember me by, right? What about if I do it for that? And sometimes it is that we gotta be selfish. We have to do things for ourselves because we're so hung up on thinking, is that person gonna approve? If that person gonna give me a like or a heart or whatever that may be, social
Yeah,
media? No, do it for yourself. So when I did that, oh my God, within 2 to 3 months, I finished my book. And the reviews and the messages that I was getting from people that I didn't even know said, your story impacted me so positively and has helped me so much.
yeah.
That to me was $1 million.
Yeah, 100%. And your series, every single one of those volumes has a different focus, right? For individuals to really be able to hopefully take a little piece of it that can
Yeah.
help them through something. And so if y'all haven't read You Can Overcome Anything, I strongly recommend you go grab his series. And I think you're up to what volume now?
We're on volume number 16, looking to start number 17 soon.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a fabulous, not just your story where you started, but you've given a voice to
Yeah.
so many individuals to be able to tell their story and to be able to just kind of bring that to light. I have a question for you that I want you to answer actually more for our audience than anything.
Mhm.
For someone wanting to start over or to build something from nothing, what would you tell them to focus on first?
Yeah. The first thing is, and it's very simple. Um, but before even we get into like what is that new beginning or whatever you want to do, the first thing is making that decision. And I know
Yeah,
again it sounds very simple, um, but that's the hardest thing to do. You know, people think that the hardest part is the aftermath. Really, that's not right. You coming to senses and saying, I'm going to do this, like making that decision, right? So
yeah,
I tell people that you know, the decisions and choices that you make today will determine the quality of life that you have tomorrow. Hence, you have to make that decision. Except people are afraid of making the decision because they don't want to follow through. They don't want to continue, right? Once you
right.
make the decision and you say, I want to make a change, then now we can dive into, okay, what is it that we're changing? You know, are we trying to get out of our 9 to 5? Are we trying to have a better, healthy life? Are we trying to change the way we perceive life, right? And
Right.
whatever that might be, I always tell people once you make a decision, now you want to write it down. Like write down what is the end goal, okay, and then work backwards. So I always like the idea of work with the end in mind, right? So I'll just give you a simple example, right? Let's just say you never have gone out of the country and you want to go to France, right?
Right.
If you think about going to France or any place over there, right? You're gonna be like, man, that's gonna be so expensive. I had the plane tickets, like I gotta get a babysitter. What am I gonna eat? The hotel. Now you start thinking about all this stuff, and guess what? You get overwhelmed. Now you don't follow through because you get overwhelmed and you see that big ticket item, right? And I'm like, man, this is too much. No, take it the other way. Like start with the end in mind and and
Right.
and chunk it down, work yourself down, right? So I said, okay, I want to go to Paris. When would I want to go to Paris? I want to go to Paris in about, you know, maybe a year from now. Okay, now I have a
Right.
whole year. Well, what do I need to do between now and then to be able to make that happen, right? Well, maybe I need to buy my plane ticket within 6 months prior to the event. Okay, I have or the trip. Well, I have 6 months to
Yeah.
start saving up, right? And so now you start creating this, essentially I call it not goals but an objective, a target, because a target you can actually aim
Right.
at. Now you're creating this target plan to be able to make that happen, right? And so that's really the same thing in anything you want to do is, you know, one, make the decision. Number two, write it down. And number three, start taking action, do something, right? Because just, you know, you're getting little steps, right? Baby steps. Here's another example. I want to go to the gym, but I want to start working out, but I never been to the gym. All right. Well, what
Right.
about if today, just today, you know, set your alarm for, I don't know, 6 in the morning. Don't do anything. Just set your alarm, you know, for the purpose of that. And maybe just have your alarm. You don't do anything tomorrow. All right. Just on the side of your bed, go ahead and put your shoes and your workout clothes. Now you have the alarm, you have the shoes and the workout clothes. Okay. The next day, just put on the clothes. Nothing's gonna happen. Even
Yeah.
if you don't leave, put on your clothes. The next one, just go to the parking lot. Just stand outside the parking lot, even before you go into
Sure.
the gym, right? Before you know it, all of that is compounding for you to take the action to actually go into the gym and start lifting weights or start doing what you want to do.
And I hope everybody has written this down. We have to take another quick commercial break, but when we get back, we're going to hear more from Cesar and go into some of his inspirations that have really helped him grow his journey as an entrepreneur. So join us back in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. Yeah, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to EmpowerFuse, Unleashing Inspiration Together with my very special friend, special guest, Cesar. I am just loving your story. I know our audience is as well with all of the comments that we are receiving. I want them to hear and learn a little bit more about you. So I have another question for you.
Mhm.
Your mission is clearly bigger than personal success. So what legacy do you hope your life leaves behind?
Yeah, that's a good one. And part of the mission, right? You kind of mentioned that at the beginning of the show when you introduced me, but I want to be able to motivate, I want to be able to inspire, and I want to be able to empower people, right?
Right.
Hence why I decided to start You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. And the idea was to be able to not only get connected with a bunch of different people, be able to bring professionals or people that have gone through a lot of different things and overcome different obstacles or challenges, and now they're making it big, right? From that grew the idea of having You Can Overcome Anything book series, right? I said, well, what about if I can get regular people with just their stories? Because I believe that again, we all have a story, and the minute you're able to share that, I do believe that we're helping people, and you're also helping yourself heal whatever you might have gone through, right? And so
Right.
for me, um, I don't think we just came here to just be another body that is, lingering around in this world, and then by the time you're gone, no one's going to remember you. um to me, I think I want to be able to leave the impact of not only helping people during this lifetime but beyond that. So hence my
Yeah.
books, the podcast, and for me, more than anything, my family, to be able to remember that, I came from nothing, and I work hard to be able to get to where I need to. And so I'm hoping that that will be motivation for people too, to say, hey, this guy was not even born here in this country, and he came through all of this. He made it happen. We can too.
Yeah. And if you could speak directly to your younger version of yourself, the boy that was sleeping on dirt floors in Mexico City, what would you tell him today?
I would say, it's funny. Somebody asked me that a while back, and it was one of those reflection moments, and it is because again, kind of speaking to your inner child. I think more than anything, I would say, you're gonna be okay. You gotta just trust yourself, and I say that because I didn't trust myself, and so I would say you gotta trust yourself, and um, and as long as you stay through the right path, right, I
Right.
do believe that things are gonna shape up for you. When I was in middle school, again, I was very, I was studying, getting really good grades. I got the opportunity to actually speak at my eighth grade graduation class for the whole entire class. And I
Okay.
did a speech, and I don't remember the whole speech, but it's on my book. But the name that I came up with this for that speech is "We Choose Our Way," right? And the idea of that speech was me speaking not only to the parents and the faculty, but also to the students. That we choose our way. We can choose the way, the path of really uh, probably most resistance, right? Which is going to school, getting a good education, and doing that, or we can choose the path of less resistance and get into gangs and drugs and go that path, right? And so, kind of going back to that is really that, like, my message to my younger self is, trust yourself. Number one. Number two, we choose our way, we choose our path, and as long as you do good in life, I do believe that life is gonna return that back uh, tenfold.
Yeah, I so agree with you. And Caesar, you are such an inspiration to our entire audience that is listening. I have another question that I think will kind of hit home for them as well, as it's something that we talk about a lot on the show. But how do you balance ambition with fulfillment and purpose?
Mm, okay. Yeah, I think here's how I would probably position that. When I got started in my entrepreneurial journey, it was
Yeah.
probably more fulfilling, not necessarily purpose, right? Yeah, it was more the ambition. And what I mean by that is that I have a saying. I learned. I came up with the saying. If you're doing something, right? If we're talking about monetary aspects or doing something for a financial gain, if you're doing it for profits, you're doing it wrong. You have to do it for purpose, and the profits will come, right? And what I mean by that is that oftentimes, that was me myself too when I got into this business. I got into the business, I think, for the wrong reason. I left my corporate job for the wrong reason. Uh, I needed to do that for sure, but I got into it because I wanted to make more money. I wanted to just do real estate and transactions and just get more
Yeah.
money. And
Yeah.
and that, in my opinion, can generally end sooner than later. Like those profits are gonna stop. I realized that after the fact that when you start doing things for purpose, with a mission, with something that actually is going to fulfill you, not even really thinking about if there's going to be a return, the return automatically comes back. It's the law of attraction, it's the law of money. You and I, you do this a lot, you've done a lot of stuff too, right? And so you know exactly what I mean. So I think that's where you have to come to terms and realize that whatever you're doing, i- if it's feeding more that lion of profits, and only that, and there's nothing more than that, that is going to come to an end. You have to shift and start looking at, what is this? Is this serving not only me, but is this serving somebody else? My family? Is this serving others in the process, right?
Yeah, 100%. When we think about our purpose in life and how we want, not only to just live our life, but what type of legacy do we want? Anytime we focus on who we are and what we can do to help others, will always come back tenfold. You have done that your entire life, with regards to motivating individuals and providing just that inspiration to where they know, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. I need to go figure out what was his success. How did it help, with everything that he went through? So,
Hmm.
what is one truth that you hope every listener remembers after today's conversation?
I'm gonna give you a relationship advice. Okay. Now I'm
Right.
not a relationship therapist or anything like that, but this is a relationship with you and with yourself, right? Make sure that you're not cheating on your future with your past. Okay. Because
Yes.
oftentimes that's exactly what it is, right? We are
Yeah.
so hung up on the past, and because of that we forget about the present, which hence is going to impact the future. And so again, don't cheat on your future with your past. We got to look at the past as nearly a life experience. You got to extract the great lessons and utilize them, and then those that didn't serve, it was a lesson for you not to do again. But don't get hung up on whatever that might have gone. And again, we're all guilty. We're humans. We're gonna go through that. But you got to be able to start controlling that, um, so that you can have a better future. As a matter of fact, it kind of goes back to a message I did yesterday on Facebook, and the
Right.
idea of I see all this posts and people saying, "Thank God it's Friday," right? And I was kind of going back to that again. Thank
Yep.
God it's Friday. I'm so excited. And my message was, I don't not understand that. At least I don't get that now. Maybe when I had a job, I did. But even if I
Right.
had a job right now, a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I would change that. I believe that we should be thankful for the fact that we're alive. Number one. Number two, we should be thankful that we have another opportunity. And number three, normally people wait for Friday so that they have the weekend to go out and celebrate, go out with family, go out and work on their business, go out and party, whatever that might be. What about we do
Yeah.
it every day? Like, why wait until Friday for that to happen? That means that you're not happy in your job. Then do something about your job, right? You're living in the past. You got to do something about your job. And then come Monday, like, oh my God, I got to go back to work. It doesn't make sense to me, right? And so
Right.
that is my message in terms of to the listeners. Is like, make sure that you take control of your life, take control of your destiny, take control of what you want this outcome to be, because you do have that control. The last thing that I would say to that is, even everybody that's listening to me, including myself, if I was to lose my house right now, hopefully that's not the case. If I was to lose
Yeah.
my job, if I lose all my clients, and I literally end up in the streets, I would be okay. And here's the reason why. The reason why I think I'll be okay is because, one, I started with nothing and I've got to this level. Number two, God has given me, or if you don't believe in religion, whatever great power you believe, or the universe has given me the opportunity to still be here alive. So even if I lose everything, I have my life, which means that at that point I can restart all over again.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. You can make anything happen with the mindset that you have. And it goes back to that conversation earlier in the show, right? It's like when you have the empowerment and the mindset and just the thought process of not how do I get rich quick, but how do I change my life? How do I
Mhm.
change the trajectory of
Yeah.
my life? Because you do have that say. We can either stay where we're at, and to your point, they're miserable, which is why it's thank goodness it's Friday and here it is Monday,
Hmm.
or we do something about it and we figure out how to change that message. Maybe they
Right.
absolutely love their job. Maybe they absolutely love what they're doing, but they're in a mindset that it's a Monday through Friday. And okay, now I've got the weekend. Well, we can make the weekend actually be 7 days a week. It's
Right.
just how we enter every single day. How do we, how do we make that happen? So, how can people begin believing in themselves before they see that external proof?
Yeah. The biggest thing is you got to start working from the inside out. You got to start working on yourself, right? And that's something that I've done the last couple of years. And again, very silly things that seem like there's not a whole lot of value, or you're like, what is this gonna do to me? But I really, when I started my journey, not only did I decided to be in certain rooms where there's different types of people. uh,
Mhm.
Jim Rohn refers to them as the average five. And I like to take that a little bit further in terms of the average five. And I want everybody to be here. And you yourself, you're doing that right now. I can see that, and I seen your growth too. I seen you, for many years, and I know you for many years. And I think that's what it is, what we're doing. The average five for me is based on three different categories. The first
Cesar,
category is
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have you give us those 5 when we get back from our last commercial break, because I want the audience to really have time to take their
sure,
notes and get through
awesome.
this. So we're gonna come back in 2 minutes. So everybody, please come back. We need to hear those 5 from Cesar.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality? But it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating. Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant. Like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. Yeah, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Welcome back to EmpowerFuse, Unleashing Inspiration Together. Before we went on break, Cesar was about ready to tell us 5 things. So Cesar, please share with the audience. I want them to get those nuggets.
Yeah, definitely. So I believe that the average five is based on three different categories. The first one is, a mentor or a coach, someone that's generally willing to help you, right? Someone that actually wants to see your growth, right? And you and I have been in a lot of rooms where we actually have mentors that have helped us. We can also be a podcast, this right here, or
Yeah.
listening to something like this. It could be books that are actually helping you get there, right? So that's the first one. The second one will be um, being around people that are at the same level as you, right? But the difference here is that they're not competing with you; they're edifying you. They're helping you to the process. In other words, you guys are growing together. So someone that doesn't see you as a threat, right?
Right.
So getting in rooms with people with that. And the last one, which I think is probably the most important of the three, is when you get to that level, right? Is now you have people below you, not because they're lesser than you, but below you that want to get to where you are. People that's where you were at one point. Now it gives you the act of giving them your hand, reaching down and bringing them back to your level, right? So the act
Yes.
of giving, the act of helping. And so I think that when you take this, three different categories and you hang around those people, I do believe you can start changing your life. The second thing to that, to your question, is how do you start doing this again? So that's one. Number two is, again, I go back to some very basic stuff. Like I like to journal every day. I'm old fashioned. I have a little notepad here that I use, right? And I write down what are the things that I got to accomplish today. I also created some affirmations, which I talk about in my first book. Some affirmations that every day I will go out and start talking about them, and not just saying them. You actually gotta feel the emotion, right? And so doing that, and then the last thing is really giving myself some time to exercise, but not just exercise. It gives me time for me to reflect, right? So I'll go out for a walk. I live in the city, so I won't call it nature, but going into nature. And then I'll listen to either podcasts or stuff that is gonna motivate me to
Right.
help me. And then I really cut back on watching news because news are bad news. There's nothing good about news or TV in general. And then also listening to music that is not really helping me move forward in life. So those are things that I did when I first got started to start shifting and changing my mindset and start putting myself in a position of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope everybody wrote that down, because that's just powerful stuff right there, Caesar. It's exactly what everyone needs to hear and what they need to understand. And I totally agree. I cut totally off of TV news. And if anything, I've got a game show on that's making noise in the background once in a great while.
Yeah.
I have just a very, I'm going to call it a powerful closing question for you.
Okay.
We've got about 5 minutes here to share with our audience. But when you think about everything you have overcome, everything you have built, and the lives you're now impacting, what do you believe becomes possible when a person finally stops letting their past define their future?
I believe, again, just like anything is gonna come with some challenges, right?
Yeah.
And I believe that when you put yourself in that position, there's nothing stopping you. There's a African proverb that I really enjoy. It says, "When there's no enemy within, there's no enemy outside that can do you no harm." Right? And I do believe that when you put yourself in that position where you're working the inner self, there's nothing outside that can do you no harm. Not the politics, not people, not social media, any of that. There's a lot of noise, and you gotta be able to uh, get that noise out of your life, right? And
Yeah.
so I do believe that while it may not be easy, right, yet it is doable. Now you have a path, right? The other thing too is, you're hearing me say this a lot, challenges, right? I also believe that the way we speak to each other and the words that we portrayed are going to make a big difference, not only in your life but in other people's lives. Words do matter, right? And so I'm not talking about problems or issues because that's a negative connotation. I don't want to deal with that. I want to deal with challenges because that challenge I can actually, I like to, one, be challenged. Number two, I want to beat that challenge. I want to be ahead of that challenge, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it comes down to that, like, get challenged, be challenged, do the right things, and start working on your inner self. I think you can do whatever you want. Nobody's gonna stop you.
You can overcome anything.
Yes, 100%.
Caesar, thank you so much for being on the show today. And I know the audience has gleaned so many key points from you. And we've got so many beautiful comments here that I can't even read through all of them, but we will make sure that we post them with this episode. You are a dear friend, and I know everyone that is listening to you right now has a better understanding as to why, and they need to get to know you a little bit better. We have all your contact information
Awesome.
with the show that we posted out there. So please reach out to Caesar, have more conversations with him. He is such a beautiful person to get to know, but he is there to help you, to mentor you, to help you grow. If you have questions, please reach out to him. And thank you so much for joining us here on EmpowerFuse, Unleashing Inspiration Together. Until next Saturday, please stay blessed. Enjoy your family, friends, and loved ones. Have a beautiful weekend and a beautiful every single day of your life. So you can overcome anything. Go check that book out. Caesar, thank you again.
Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much.
This has been EmpowerFuse with your host, Dr. Carolyn M. Rubin. Join us each week as Carolyn brings individuals together to share ideas, to collectively support each other, and to spark inspiration. Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern.